Hi, this is the School for Self-Healing, and I'm very happy to bring in my friend Erik Peper. It's kind of relevant from the vision standpoint. There was no debate, and I'm sorry there wasn't a debate, but I was mentioning in the Natural Vision Improvement Conference that one of the biggest enemies to our eyes is a computer, and the other big enemies to our eyes is the smartphone. And I was debated with another known guy by the name of Peter who said, no, the computer doesn't have to damage the eyes that much. We just light a candle at the end of the day and we can enjoy our periphery at night. What I love about what Erik is saying, and I mentioned actually Erik's book, what I like about what Erik is saying is you have to take care of your eyes, your health, your body throughout the time that you are on Zoom. And that's why his lecture was on Zoom fatigue, which I think is an important lecture. So without any further delay, Erik, tell us about your book and tell us about what you're saying about Zoom fatigue.
Well, the book we wrote was called Tech Stress, How Technology is Hijacking Our Lives, Strategies for Coping, and Pragmatic Ergonomics. But the real key is when people get Zoom fatigue, or really it's screen fatigue without knowing, there are many factors. And you have to look at a system. It's ergonomics, how we are sitting. So many of us are sitting with our laptops bent down and collapsed, and then our eyes are only a very short distance from the screen, and then we keep looking and looking and looking, and as we look, we don't blink, and we keep having our eyes focused. Now, if you do this for a little while, nobody cares. The trouble is,
what's interesting, one of my friends, Beatrice, was saying that every centimeter that you bend with your neck is 10 times the pressure of the centimeter before.
Correct. And if you look at it, if my head is now bending forward like this, which I do, the equivalent weight of forces over here is 60 pounds. That's a lot of compression here, which then affects my spine, it affects my circulation in my head. And it's an easy solution by having a separate keyboard and a mouse and putting the screen up. However,
hold on, can you repeat what you said, because your voice was kind of low. Get closer to the camera and repeat what you said, because that's important.
Sure. Very good point. So when I'm starting to look down at my cell phone, and when I look at my cell phone, I look even closer because the text is so small, or when I look down at my tablet or look down at my laptop, which most people do when they're using their laptop on the kitchen table or somewhere else, then my head forward like it is right now, this is equivalent for my back of my spine as if there's a weight pulling of 60 pounds. While if my head is totally erect, it may be only 12 pounds. That is a massive compression, and it affects the circulation, it affects the muscle tension. But the major part is not that that's bad if you do it just for a moment. If I bend forward and come back, no problem. If I look very close, no problem. And as Meir is an expert on vision, I'm so impressed by his techniques and approaches. He'll point out that if our eyes keep converging, which we do when we look at the cell phone, that is tension in the eyes, the ciliary muscles tighten, which probably will apply pressure around the eyes, may in fact reduce the outflow through the von Schlemm canals, thereby potentially being a causal factor for glaucoma. But even more importantly, that if children do this for a long time, they end up, the eyes literally start changing. Our bodies change how we use it. If we use it in certain ways, our bodies form. If you do lots of exercise, your muscles build. If you don't, if you walk bent forward, it's not a problem for 5 minutes. If you do it for a lifetime, you're like an old person with a walking stick. How we use ourselves develop functions.
So, it's so interesting what you're saying. And I just want to say, this is something that I'm always saying to everyone that I meet, that you don't wait for diagnosis. you don't wait for the time that you have to go for treatment. What you do is you take care of yourself day in and day out. There is nothing, especially in this time of the pandemic, that people use more than computer. Well, see the problems that Erik is talking about and see solution. By the way, I do want to present his wonderful book. Okay, all of you take a look at it. Okay, Tech Stress. What a good name. Tech Stress. Reduce the stress. Erik will tell you how.
So there are a couple of things. First is what Meir always has said before. When you look at the screen, and just do it for a moment, bring your thumb in front of your face. It's an exercise I borrowed or stole from Meir. And now look at your thumb. Now bring your thumb really close to your eyes, right in front of you. You can feel the strain building up. The key is that same strain occurs when I look at a distance at the screen. I can relax that by looking at the far distance. So take many, many vision breaks from vision. 2, the same applies to my whole body. Get up, move, wiggle. And every so often, get up, which I'm doing right now, wiggle. It's even less important from my perspective how you wiggle, or you can argue. The most important part is to do some different activities so the same muscles are not being strained the whole time. If you do that every 15, 20 minutes, you'll have more energy by the end of the day. The third factor, obviously, is ergonomics. It's really the number one, because if you sit on the right chair, it gives you the opportunity to sit correctly. That's all it does. It doesn't mean you do. When I have the correct ergonomic arrangement, I can still collapse or tighten. On the other hand, if I get incorrect ergonomics, then I don't have the opportunity to be in an optimum position to work. But the underlying theme is, I'm going to be very simple. 1, take many eye breaks. We forget the eyes. We have essentially the visual cortex and all the stimuli affects 80% of the cortex directly and indirectly. If we don't relax our eyes, we're building tension. We have neck tension, shoulder tension. The other part is when I look and I get activated, I tend to shallow breathe. And now that may even over time affect my digestion, my whole health status. So the key is learn to breathe lower and slower. And then one of the final pieces in social interactions. When your cell phone is in your pocket, I wouldn't recommend that because of the electromagnetic radiation, EMF. When the cell phone goes off, we tend to quickly interrupt and look at that. That is breaking a social bond when we communicate with each other. As my students report, when they're together and then as they're talking, they quickly look back at their cell phone to see the text message or whatever it was. They feel a bit dismissed, feel less.
Isn't it annoying? Isn't it annoying that you talk to a youngster and you talk about something important and he finds that looking at his text, it could be a very trivial thing. That's the important thing. It's even annoying in our older generation that we talk about something important, the phone is ringing, and for some reason that is more important to pick up. Yeah, but it could have been a solicitor.
Yeah. But what is interesting is, it is absolutely annoying. All the students, when we have done the survey report, they all feel that annoyance when someone does it to them, but they also still do it often themselves. The reason is we forget that these signals, these stimuli really evoke, evolutionary survival mechanisms. If we were walking in the woods or on somewhere, and I see a signal or hear crunching in the distance or on the side, I better orient because that could be a tiger. Now we orient to the cell phone in the same way. Or to
it could be a tax collector. It could be.
Now it's a tax collector.
That's why we have all those people who pretend to be Social Security tax collectors who give you a call, sending you a text. I call the police and say, those people claim to be Social Security and they keep bugging me. And the police said, yeah, they're doing it to us as well. So apparently some people got on that and understand how silly we are and how much we respond all the time to the phone. And I must tell you, there's a vision organization that I love, I'm a part of, but there's no limit to how many texts they do to each other on WhatsApp, and it's just so active, there's just no limit to it. I'm probably not looking at most of the text because why should I look so much at the phone? You know, this is a crazy thing. But let's return to Zoom. You talked about something so important, Zoom fatigue. We get so much information from Zoom. You and I right now are on Zoom. So explain to me, what should we do to reduce the fatigue?
Thank you. As we're talking, as you just did, you're standing up. I'm going to stand up. And when I do that for a moment, you miss my screen. I need to move myself lower. But just doing that movement, that's 1. 2, take vision breaks. 3, if possible, we can talk while we move, as I said before. 4, Zoom fatigue is a little bit less if it's just you and I, because I can see your facial expressions, I see your body movements, and we are communicating non-visually, non-verbally. All these cues help us share. I can see that you're reacting. In many cases, if you're in a group people have the picture of, they may have internet problems or bandwidth problems. You're not as clear. So when you're not in focus, my eyes have to work harder. We often are multitasking, which is also a major disaster because you're not attending. How do I really know if you are attending to me, or in fact, you're looking at your cell phone or looking at a great other piece on the screen? So we feel more disconnected. What is interesting, we did a very interesting little study with our students. We asked them to rate how they feel being normally in class on Zoom, or it can be other media, but that basically that kind of media. And their attention, their energy level, their interest, their ability to learn. And then all we ask them to do in these classes the following time is to be actively responding to the material. It's if what you're doing right now, when you agree with me, unknowingly you nod your head, you may smile, you disagree, you would nod your head the other way, or you say something out loud, you look away and you say, oh my God, what is he saying? But that is an interactiveness. When more than 80% of students report when they did that, all of a sudden their energy is up, their attention is up, they're more interested in the material, and they remember the material better. For some, it's difficult. If I'm already really interested, then doing this extra work reduces, is a burden. But for most students in school, when they have this big class, being purposefully present, and then what teachers, speakers don't remember, because when I'm talking, I'm active, I'm moving my head, I'm moving my face, my arms. You may not see that.
So what you're saying is interaction with one another is great, but passiveness is a problem, which was a problem of the 20th century and is a problem now. I wanted to ask you, because we have a minute left basically, tell us again, what is this treasure? What are we getting from following this wonderfully researched book? And who are your two helpers?
1, it provides an understanding why we react even in social settings and we look away to check our cell phone. That's the evolutionary traps and the survival. So it gives a really good mechanism. 2, it provides numerous strategies, cognitive, thinking ones, behavioral ways you can do to interrupt these patterns and optimize your health. The key is prevention. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, the old statement. It's just like we've been talking for a moment. Everybody, just take a big breath, sit up, look up at the ceiling for a moment. If you can look out the window, look at a tree, smile, wiggle, and then start again. I'll end with a quote of one of my participants many years ago when we first started this. I'll never forget this. We were doing a group of people, how to be healthy at the computer, and we encourage people to take little breaks. And this person said, why should I do this? You know, I feel perfectly good. I have no problem. Well, finally, we persuaded the person to do it. He came back the following week and he said, you know, there's life after 5. And what he really meant was that by the end of the day, he no longer felt the same fatigue because he took these breaks. And remember, and I'm just remembering this now because I'm partly sitting, when I sit the whole time, I am putting a burden on my system. I get sitting disease because I'm not activating in the vertical position my calf muscles and my leg muscles, which act as a second heart to help return blood flow. So for that reason, you want to get up every so often, do the walking, go on the beach, whatever it is, use your leg muscles. They are made to help push the blood back and the venous return.
So just a word or two about your co-authors in this one.
They're just great. This book really could only have been done with the collaboration of Richard Harvey, who's also a professor at San Francisco State, and a superb science editor and writer, Nancy Fass, who really has helped massively to help shape the book as well. And so it's our hope that by reading this, you get some background, but much more specific practices and exercises that promote and prevent illness and promote health.
So I just want to say that my friend Erik Peper is one of the best people in the world. He is a fantastic practitioner of biofeedback. He's an authority in many ways. He's a regular professor in State University, and I had the honor of visiting his classes and teaching my work there. And I really, 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 really recommend his book, okay, Tech Stress. I think it's going to help you to reduce stress that accumulates throughout life and can cause so many more problems than we imagine and make us basically fatigued and with less life, as you mentioned. Thank you so much and see you soon.
Thank you so much, Meir. Thank you. Bye-bye.